Veronica Yvette Greenfield was born August the 10th, 1943, an American singer who co-founded and fronted the girl group called the Ronettes. She's referred to as the original bad girl of rock and roll. She was born in New York City and she passed away January the 12th, 2022 at the age of 38 in Connecticut. Now, she formed the singing group with her older sister Estelle and their cousin in the late 1950s. They were signed to Phil Spector's label in 1963, and he produced the majority of their recording output. Ronnie and Phil fell in love and they married in 1968. But before then, Ronnie ended up finding out that all the time that they were dating for about 4 or 5 years, he was actually married to someone else. It was only until she changed her demeanor and stopped being joyful and so seemingly happy in their relationship that he decided that he should marry her. He also adopted children, two boys, in order to keep Ronnie in the marriage. When she lived in the mansion, he put up bars on the window. He wouldn't let her go out the house. He even had a mannequin made so that when she drove around in town or wherever she was traveling to, that people would think that Ronnie Spector was in the car with her. He also wore all kind of crazy wigs, and I guess that's one of them in the picture. In 1980, she released her debut solo album. She was featured on Eddie Money's song and video Take Me Home Tonight in 1986. She also published her memoir, Be My Baby, How I Survived Mascara, Miniskirts, and Madness, or My Life as a Fabulous Brunette. She was inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2007. In 2023, Rolling Stone ranked Spector at number 70 on its list of the 200 greatest singers of all time. Ronnie Spector was a mixed child. Her mother was African American and Cherokee descent. Her father was Irish. And at that time, it wasn't really popular to be of mixed ethnicity. So she was bullied a lot at school for her exotic looks and her wavy hair. And her mom ended up having to move her to another school. They used to have a group called the Darling Sister, and they later changed it to the Ronettes. She went to George Washington High School in Washington Heights. But back to Ronnie and her husband, Phil Spector. Phil Spector finally divorced his wife in 1965, and Ronnie changed her surname and became known as Ronnie Spector. The adopted twins that I was talking about earlier were Lewis and Gary. He subjected her to years and years of psychological torment and sabotaged her career by forbidding her to perform. Their house was surrounded with barbed wire, guard dogs. He even took her shoes to prevent her from leaving. And on the rare occasions he allowed her to go out alone, she had a life-size dummy of Phil. He also installed a gold coffin with a glass top in the basement, promising that he would kill her and display her corpse if she ever left him. She began drinking and attending AA meetings to escape the house. In 1972, she fled their mansion barefoot and without any belongings and with the help of her mother. I knew that if I didn't leave, I was going to die there. In 1974, she forfeited all future record earnings, alleging that Phil had threatened to have a hitman kill her. She received $25,000, a used car, and a monthly alimony of $2,500 for 5 years. She also lost the custody of her children. She later testified that Phil frequently pulled a gun on her during their marriage and threatened to kill her unless she surrendered custody of the children. She tried to rebuild her career keeping Spector's surname professionally because I needed it any way I could to get back in. I've been kept away so long. But he hired lawyers to prevent her from singing her popular songs and denied her royalties. In 1988, the Ronettes sued Phil Spector for $10 million in damages and about contract matters, the return of their masters, and recoupment of money received from the sales of their masters. It took 10 years for this case to make trial. And after a prolonged legal battle, the court ruled that their contract gave Phil unconditional rights to the recordings, but they were entitled to a share of their royalties. In 1982, she married her manager, Jonathan Greenfield, and they had two sons, and they live in Connecticut. She died uh, from a cancer diagnosis at the age of 78. This is why it really, really pays to know who you're marrying and who you're involved with. Because this man was insane. And this was also the man that Tina Turner worked with, but I guess she didn't even know what was going on at the time. Ronnie Spector, the big hair and the big sound. And his children also, Louis and Philip, they testified to their father's abuse and torment. They said they were allowed to go to school, but they were locked in their rooms. They were allowed to come out for dinner, but then after dinner, they were locked back in their rooms and not allowed to talk to anyone. The Ronettes also performed with the Beatles in the very beginning of their career. But it's amazing. It is indeed amazing that she survived and escaped and was able to put her life back on track after dealing with such emotional trauma. You know, when you deal with someone that says, well, if you move, I'll find you, or you see my gun, you see my bullets, if I catch you with another man, boom, boom, just the torment. That's why I really don't think it's a good idea for girls and boys to date such at an early age. I really think you need to be mature to be in relationships. All these women who were so close to death because they only wanted to be loved and only wanted to be accepted, but their spouse or their boyfriend was deadly, which is why I call it fatal attraction. Some women actually died, some women were close to death. And so it behooves us to make wise decisions. And if relatives tell you not to marry someone or date someone, maybe you should listen. Or somebody always wants to separate you from your family, separate you from your friends, tell you and put down your family, call your families, you know, you act like robots. And you're looking at them and they're a drunk, an undercover alcoholic, and you're listening to them. Or someone who wants to know your every move. Well, let me go back to their group. Some of their popular hits, which I was not familiar with, "Be My Baby," "Walking in the Rain," and "Breaking Up." And it's quite unfortunate um, that her career did not go the length and the breadth that she wanted it to. What happened to Ronnie Spector's children? Gary Phillips and Louis Phillips, the children that were adopted. They were adopted in 1971, but they were born in 1966. in the month of May. Dante Phillip was also adopted. He has no social media presence, and we have no public details about his professional or love life. And she also had children by her second marriage, Mr. Greenfield. Her son Jason went to Brookfield High School in Connecticut, and he also went to a community college in Waterbury, but not much information is known about him either. He did get married to a woman named Jessica in 2014. Now he's about 39 or 40 years old. Austin is her second biological child. He was born in 1984 and he's 39, 40 years of age as of now. He also has stayed out of the public eye. Louis Spector, now in his 50s, made a shocking revelation about his adoptive father, an award-winning producer Phil Spector. He accused him of abuse in his proposal for the gingerbread house, My Life Caged Behind Phil Spector's Wall of Sound. He talks about his past and his father's long ago girlfriends. At the age of 13, he lost his innocence to a woman that his father was dating. Lewis and Gary also accused Phil Spector of abusing them. They were like cage animals to be let out for dad's amusement. And then when a man lies about being married, when you meet a guy, you ask him to tell about your life. And that's why I say you almost need a private investigator before you get involved with people. That's why it's almost better to date people in your community from your church or from people that you know their families, because at least you know their background and something about their childhood. When you talk to a guy and then you look through his wallet in the car and find out that the name that he gave you is not even the name on his identification. It's a totally different name. And you didn't know anything about it. Phil Spector died in January 2021 at a hospital in prison. The cause of death was COVID-19 complications. Ronnie Spector was worth $5 million at the time of her death. Phil Spector's children stood to inherit their father's wealth, which was about $50 million. Phil Spector was also accused and convicted of murder. For second-degree murder in October the 20th, 2008, 2009. The jury found him guilty of murdering Clarkson, and he was sentenced to 19 years to life in a state prison. He died in prison again in January 2021. The U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear his appeal. And this could have been Ronnie Spector. So there's, there you have it. He finally killed a woman that he was dating. John Lennon said that Phil Spector had a tremendous ego. He considers the artist like a film director considers actors just pieces of garbage, canned goods that you bring on and will off. Wow. The prosecutors alleged that Phil Spector shoved a gun into Clarkson's mouth and pulled the trigger after she rebuffed his advances and attempted to leave the castle. 5 women also took the stand to accuse Spector of threatening them with guns before. Wow. And a lot of people said, did Phil Spector have schizophrenia? They said he did take medication for that. Some people thought he was bipolar, but he also admitted to being his own worst enemy. Phil Spector was also a narcissist. What in the world? Look at these wigs. This right here tells you all you need to know. A lot of times we ignore the um the red flags. And that's why you better know a person's history. Spector had a very troubled history. His father died by suicide when he was 9 years old. His mother was oppressive. He had a mentally disturbed elder sister. Well, and he also suffered years of mental torment. Phil Spector told people that he had devils on the inside. And that's 1 month later, he married Lena Clarkson. Absolutely disturbing and absolutely unbelievable. Pay attention to the signs because you might be in love with a cuckoo.